Take it away, Patricia.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we've gone over the goals, the preliminary goals, board goals, and we've added a potential one of 7th grade math. So we're going to talk about that. So what we need to do now is we need to dive back into the data a little bit because we need targets, right? So we need to think about what is that 5-year target? And looking at the data, identifying the growth trends, like did we grow between 18 and 19, 18 and, 17 and 18, we were able to do, 5% growth, 3%. What does that look like? And what do we want those 5-year goals targets to be? And so what I'd like for you to do is get into pairs again, but I'm going to break you up. I think what I'd like is for maybe you 3 to go here. Trustee Macias, will you join Trustee Eaton and have a partnership, and maybe you 2 get together? And that way, when you work together, I want you to look back into the data. Everybody has a data packet, or at least they have some people. And then dig in on these 5 goals, and you have a goal sheet that has them. I think I gave you one somewhere.
Oh, you come up this sheet.
Yes. But instead of doing the D and F goal, let's look at 7th grade math. Okay? So, remember what we're trying to do is we're trying to stretch, but not, if we haven't created a goal that is attainable, then we really are not doing our superintendent or our students any good because we can't resource that unattainability, right? So remember, stretch but attainable, it's a balance, but you guys look at it, there's no right or wrong number right now. We're going to have to come together and agree on that, and we're going to have to agree with Dr. Ball as well. So. Bring your data. Everybody has data, right? Come together. I would like you to go through all 5 of the goals and just kind of address where you are. Look at the trends. And see where those are. Thank you. And I'll be wandering around to answer questions. And Dr. Ball here is also here the expert.
Oh, good.
Enabler.
I know.
Okay, so everybody has data. There is some trend data in there, in this packet. So there's trend data. What? What I'm trying to get you guys to do is hit the Y. 5-year Y. Use the targets. So I want you to look at this target, right? Because I want you to look at the data and
really 39.
All I want you to do is worry about the
So let's kind of look at.
like in 5 years, where would you like that?
Okay. 30.
The previous growth.
That's 2018, 29.
Right.
And before that,
And somewhere, I gave in 2015, let's say this package had like
it's been going down now.
and another
38.
because it'll help you because it shows like what happened. Let me grab that. So what you're trying to do is just get, like in 5 years, where do you want to be? 5 years, where do you want to be on each of those goals? With the exception of right. Well, so let's say today we're at 36%, and you want to be at 20%. 25, right? But is that feasible? Is that stretch? Is that attainable? That's what I want you to talk about. For all 5 goals. All 5 goals. And instead of doing the last one,
My usual. Salad.
we're still going to have that one. We're going to move it in another place. Is that in the 20th in the packet? This one? I can. Like what? I just don't have the, I don't have the 20 data online.
Right, but I could definitely charge,
I'm gonna see if I can find that too.
This is 20. Okay.
So you have benchmarks
Okay.
starting, you're just looking for targets.
We have benchmarks. These numbers don't match up to the data we have. It says 22% here.
That's 90. This is the 20.
Yeah, but here, this is 20. And third grade math, 46. 19, 44.
1946. 2019.
Mhm.
Yes. 46. This is for, so this is 20.
But it says 22 here.
Oh, this is 22 is the 20 number. That would be the 20. This is 19.
Got it. Okay. And this is 19. Okay, so this is the most, so we have gone down considerably. Okay. And in a non-pandemic year, we could, yeah.
So how
See,
much
this is the
ground
thing.
can you make up? That's the conversation we have to have.
I'm looking at it, when I've done this kind of thing before, looking what a reasonable amount is.
18, 19.
Oh, gotcha, okay. So the report was issued there, but these was, okay. So if we look here, we went from 40, so there was some.
There was some more, and then this is 19.
But that's certainly not all kids.
Yeah, and that still doesn't mean all kids. This is 43, this is 46.
And it could be that some of them, because, you know, as you go in and you start pulling out the ones that didn't have
So the baseline for seventh grade math, let's just put that one on hold because I want to confirm,
The data.
yeah, the data, that it is, it's right. So Dr. Wall's going to check into that. So just do the other four, okay? Four? Just confirm that. The other four goals.
So, we went from 46 to 22.
Find your targets for all four. I stayed at the closest Marriott, which is still at 281 and 60. I am, I just, it's just easier for me to stay at a Marriott. Oh, sorry. I was looking at a table. So those numbers in red are the numbers for the 21 tests that didn't, count.
Yeah.
Didn't count. Okay. So I just want to make sure everybody knows. How accurate do you feel the TA numbers are for yours? Did you guys do all four?
I'm waiting for the target, right? Do you want us to break it down into yearly things or no?
No, just 5-year target?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I think they kicked out vandalism. I don't know if you've seen all those.
So now what I'm just trying to get you to do is your target, 5 years, where would you like to be? Yeah, so you have that 50% given that 73% of it's as opposed to 130%. So there's, obviously, there's, right.
They took stuff and she needed to check.
Okay.
She put it in the all test.
You're sensitive.
It did all the tests.
No, I just want bird grade literacy and bird grade. Seventh grade. Did you read what I did today? I haven't. Okay. We'll take a look at it. not 100% of the kids took the test. It's COVID, it's a different thing. So you also saw 20 or 1920 numbers in your taper report. So you saw kind of what a normal year might look like. So let's see what you guys came up with for your targets. So we have 3 groups. So let's see where we are. Group 1, what was y'all's target for 3rd grade reading?
We have a goal of 55% in 5 years, with a desire to reach 70. Yeah.
70? That's kind of your stretch?
Yes. And we based that on the numbers that we looked at from 2018 to 2019, because, some of these numbers are where they were at. They were higher in 2018 and 19 than these numbers are starting at. So, as Mr. Messias pointed out, kids are resilient. They're going to bounce back quick as long as they can just start getting that input. So.
Okay. All right. So we got these. So what about your group? What did you have for your 5-year target for 3rd grade reading?
60%.
60%. Split them right down the middle. Okay. And how about you guys?
You're going to laugh. Ours was 57. So it is exactly between them.
You guys are very close. That's pretty cool. All right. So we got this. We're going to leave it right there. We'll come back and talk about it a little bit. Let's do. All right. How about math? 3rd grade math. We'll start with you guys this time. 51. 51. Okay. And you guys?
44 possible, and that stretch 60.
Okay. All right. And you guys?
55.
55. Not that far. All right. When we went to CCMR, and we were at 50% as our baseline. So what'd you guys have for your 70? What'd you guys have?
70.
What'd you guys have?
75.
75, all right. Now, we're trying to get the data for the kindergarten. So can we talk in terms, and I don't know what you guys talked about, but like percentage points? Can we do that? If we said, like, do we want 20% growth? Do we want 30% growth? Do we want 100% growth? Do we want 70% growth? What do we think we want in our kindergarten readiness? So we deployed 3rd grade, or PK3 and PK4, and we've got strategies around that. You've resourced that. What do you want to see that show up in 5 years? Because there might be strategies we have to deploy here to get to these. But this one, strategies have been deployed. So do you have yeah?
We put 100%.
You want it to be at 100%.
Of those that went through pre-K 3 and 4.
Okay, so kindergarten readiness, 100%.
Of those that actually were in both pre-K
I gotcha. Okay,
and
cool.
pre-K 4.
I gotcha. 100% of PK 3 and 4. What about you guys? Any thoughts?
So we were working on the assumption that the thing we got in the board presentation was correct. So that data point was that X was 70.
The baseline that you have was what?
70.
Okay, good.
And so then we said 85, but we were thinking all students in kindergarten, that like they would be kindergarten ready.
So all students 85, not just the pre-K.
Not just the ones who've gone through our program,
Right.
but like beginning of year kindergarten, that they're kindergarten ready is 85%.
Okay. What about you guys? 85 all?
Well, of the ones that have gone through pre-K with us, whether it's 1 year or 2 years.
Okay, so you want this.
No,
Have started with us.
because we may have some that just went to pre-K 4 and didn't go to pre-K 3 with us. So we're talking about any student who was in our pre-K program, whether it was 3, 4, or 3 and 4.
Okay.
So all our pre-K students. Not just the ones that did 3 and 4.
That started with us, though.
Right, that's what we're trying to
That
do.
was, it started.
Okay, let me ask you this then. We are measuring kindergarten readiness. Do we need the goal to be pre-K 4? Or do you want to know that all kids? Because we had talked about we wanted to know all kids, right? We just were going to disaggregate them between the ones who went to our pre-K and the ones who didn't go to our pre-K.
If we're using end-of-year pre-K data, we won't have that on kids who didn't go to
But you can use beginning of the year kindergarten readiness data.
kinder, beginning of year. So it depends on, are we using beginning of year kinder, or are we using end-of-year pre-K?
Well, that's, if I was,
Those are different assessments.
right, I assumed what we had talked about was it was beginning of the year kindergarten assessments. But it can be anything you want it to be. So if I made an assumption
So
incorrectly.
that's not as multifaceted as the pre-K assessment, because our screening for beginning year kinder would be.
Didn't you said you had the data?
They have all that. It doesn't have everything that our pre-K does.
So the multi-dimensional assessment is a beginning of the year kindergarten or an end of the year pre-K 4? End of year pre-K 4.
And so that's really truly the measure that we want, I think, because we're interested is our bang for our buck there, is the kids that come to us for pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we look at both, all students, all pre-K students, and then we look at the ones who did 3 and 4 together.
Okay.
That's just I don't know that it's separate goals.
So that may be
It's a way to look at.
and you said that was 70% baseline based on your
That's what it was in the board presentation that we had.
in
For last
21.
year.
We had it this summer, so it was for the end of the school year.
Okay.
2020, 21 school year.
All right. So we got 70 now. So are we saying, let's just say, so this is, it's not going to be all, because you're not going to be able to measure any kids that aren't in your pre-K. So now we have 100%. Do you care if they go to both? You want them to see both or just either?
I think that's interesting data to look at, but I think the goal should be if they attended our pre-K.
Yeah, because the question is talking about, are they ready to go to kindergarten, right?
Right.
But they're going in, so.
So you're going to measure them at fourth, and you know what? If they got something good and at 3 and it wasn't ours, we get benefit from it, right? Okay, cool. Okay, so now we got 100%, 85, and 85. So we're a little bit
And the growth was supposed to be over 5 years, right?
right.
So if
That's-
if we're currently sitting at 70, and we're gonna take 5 years to get to 85,
That's the discussion here that we need to have. So, and Dr. Ball, you need to be a part of this discussion as well, because this is obviously critical. So do you feel like 15 points is a stretch? Is it feasible? Is it influenceable by the super? Or do you feel like you need 30%? Or is there somewhere in between you can compromise on? So I'd love to hear from you first, just on where your thoughts are, and then let's see if the board can come to. 15% is a stretch. So you feel like 15% is a stretch?
We're talking about 1 year, right?
5 years.
Okay, got it.
I don't know what she, oh, I think, oh, you have to.
We're looking at about 3%.
Well, 5 times 3, yeah, 15. That would be 15, but some of our board members feel like that's not stretched enough. So, you know, do you feel like if you had to go 6% a year?
I don't think it, I guess my thing is 100%. I don't think that that's realistic. I mean, that's one of the things that we're doing this for, is to also catch any early indicators of special ed, dyslexia, other types of things. So what do we do? I mean, how do those students get included?
Okay, that's a fair point. So, what would you feel comfortable if you had to move off that 100% to adjust for those kids who, you know, maybe we're trying to catch these kids and make sure they get the teaching, the differentiated teaching that they need?
I could give one more example. A lot of the kids in that area also come in with a speech impediment, let's just say.
Mhm.
So I know that they're not going to make the necessary gains right there. And they will probably by third grade, but not by kinder.
Okay.
So the 3% is better?
I just, right now,
Is that obtainable, is it doable?
the 100% is what
No,
we're.
I'm asking you, is 3%?
The 85.
The 85.
Yes. And is it enough of a stretch? Because we don't want to.
Based on our presentation of 75 to 85, I think that's a good stretch.
Yeah, my only question would be, and what I think is natural in this discussion is, we should still try to get to 100%. And if there are issues with special ed, we should identify them early enough so that we can be ahead of the curve. If we're going to already yield that only 90% of the kids are going to make it, or 85% of the kids, I don't think that's the right attitude to have. I think,
Right.
but I think, like in any discussion, if you need more speech therapists, because we have individual students that may need support, that's the discussion we need to say, okay, we have this goal, first of all, let's give you more speech therapists so that you can address every student early enough, because they'll be behind.
But then the other point, what I would say is, well, then make them all 100%, because then so I don't want us to make a goal just to say, okay, all of them are 100% when we know that that's not realistic.
Well, and I want us just to make, because I also think, and I absolutely, no doubt that the leadership team and all of you want 100% of our children to be right at that level. Just because we set a goal at 85% doesn't mean that your effort will be any less, I would assume, to get to that 100%, right? I mean, your teachers aren't going to say, I'm going to ease back here because I need, they're not going to do that. And so we want to stretch it, but we also don't want to make it unreasonable, because you're right. If it's 100%, I mean, we also have all these other goals that are important, and so how do we resource everything?
And I only say that because not every category are we putting the emphasis like we are in pre-K 3 and 4. So because we're putting infrastructure, money, and so forth, I would expect that, but not across the board.
But I would disagree, because I think we're putting resources in everything.
If you have a goal, you should be resourcing it.
And Mr. Macias, let's remember, the whole reason pre-K started was to target the students who were non-English language speakers, who were, let's think about the ones that have a special ed or early childhood diagnosis, autism. There's a reason why they came. Those kids haven't gone away. They're still here. Is it reasonable to expect them in 2 years to make that growth, that they're kindergarten ready, when they came in with these deficits?
This is a 5-year goal.
I understand that,
So,
but they're only going to be with us for 2 years.
But we're working through the program in 5 years.
I know, but those kids will only be in the program 2 years.
So in those 2 years, and I'm just asking a question, that's all.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that in those 2 years, if they have any type of deficit, they won't be ready to go into kindergarten? Then my question is, why?
No,
won't
I'm
we
not
put them
saying
in
that.
kindergarten?
I'm just saying.
Well, let's let her finish her question.
why would we put them in kindergarten? Why not hold them back in pre-K? You can't hold
You
them.
can recommend.
back?
You
Yeah,
can't.
why not?
Because it's not a
It's
requirement.
not mandatory.
Okay, all y'all talking to me at one time.
Okay, so just to answer the question is you cannot.
Would you please tell me, what's the?
Because it's not a requirement for
Uh-huh.
any student to attend pre-K, so we can't mandate a retention.
Okay, now I know. Thank
Yeah.
you, ma'am, I appreciate that.
Okay, so that's good. Let's remember our agreements too. So that's your question. That help you?
Yes,
Yep. Okay, good.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
And
it's a fair question.
That 100% is always for those students that go through the program. We know that not all kindergartners will be at that level, they didn't start with us. It's just the resource that we put into those that went through the
Right.
program. And I'm not saying it's not negotiable, but that's what the discussion's about.
Yeah, it's a fair discussion. I think the points have been made that, you know, it's might be an unattainable goal. And remember, these are goals that we're going to measure success and we're going to evaluate our district's success and our superintendent's success on. So we want to set them up.
Well, we can bring that can definitely come down. I mean, that's why I thought we having this, so we can.
Yes, absolutely we are.
So
Right.
that can definitely come down, because I don't ever wanna, set a goal that, now that I know that that's too aggressive, I'm learning that.
Right.
And set the district up for failure.
Okay.
So I'd rather go with the 3% each year, and over the 5 years. If we hit 100, then guess what? Icing on the cake.
That's right.
At least
Celebrate.
We hit our goal. You know,
Right.
we always wanna go for the
Well,
best.
if we hit 100 in 3 years on this goal, then we probably need to say celebrate, 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 and we need another goal. Yeah. Right? We've hit it. We've celebrated, right? So that's exactly right. Okay, so you guys, just make sure I'm hearing you. I don't want to speak 85. You guys are both okay with 85? Okay. No, this is why we're having this dialogue. You guys have to agree to this. That's right. It's dialogue. So we're good. And Dr. Ball, I appreciate you putting your input in because you're the expert and we need to know that, right? Okay, so we're good with that one. Let's go back. So these guys are not that far off. So we got a range of 55 to 60%. Do we split it down the middle with 57%, or does somebody feel really strongly about 55 or 60? No, we're good with 57?
Yeah.
Dr. Ball? That's about a 21% growth over 5 years. Okay? All right. Now we got math. 3rd grade math, baseline 22%. Now we're going from 44 to 55, so now we got a kind of a 9-point spread, which is a little bigger. Yes, ma'am? Oh,
Go ahead, no, go ahead. I need to show her why I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say.
okay.
Got it. Well, so something that I thought was interesting here is that, whereas there were like small dips from like 2019 to 2021, this one dropped dramatically. So that 22 is very low, and what had happened before was 46.
Yes.
So even these, all of them aren't that big of a difference. It's like recover from the pandemic and add a couple points.
After 5 years.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah,
we said 55.
yeah.
Because if you go 46, if we can get back to the 46, which I think was one really good solid year, and then continuing tutoring and special, RTI for the kids that are still struggling.
Yeah, because that state level was at 49% in 2019. And that's why we won't get kind of struggling with that number for that very reason. That's why we kept asking.
Yeah.
We wanted to check. Because, we're jumping off, we're saying in 6 years we want to get to where we left off 2 years ago. That's not a build. But I agree with you. Once the kids get in giving them what they need, we can get back to where we were and go up from there. And so that 55, that looks real good.
Mhm.
I think the
A
other
little
thing
bit
that,
more over 5 years, so I'm sorry.
and I agree with you, and something that was very interesting to me is like, something we did was looked at, Alamo Heights outcomes on each of these, and then we looked at Brownsville, which is also like more similar economically to us, or even more economically disadvantaged than we are, but has been having strong outcomes. And the reason we landed on 51, and I'm not trying to convince any, I'm just giving context. Like, sometimes
Of course, dialogue.
Alamo Heights was at 51 when we were at 46. So we were not far behind them, whereas on reading, we were at 39 and they were at 61. So they were far outperforming us on reading, only outperforming us slightly on math. So that was interesting to me.
So, did you guys want to give us context on your 55%?
We had gone back and looked at, it was the previous, the 3 previous years that we had was 44, 46, 22. And so it didn't seem reasonable to aim for 46 because we were already there. So what could we do to stretch that? And we felt like another 9 points would be a good stretch.
Okay. Dr.
What kind of movement is that, what is to be expected as far as the upward mobility of that to reach it each year over 5 years? About what, a point and a half, about 2 points
Well,
a year, maybe?
I mean, if you go from 22 to 55, that's 33 points. So that's 6 points a year approximately.
Okay.
Or you make a lot of growth in the next year and then you flatten out. Yeah, it's probably going to go like this and then up.
The first year may be really high, and then it's a struggle after that. Once we make the rebound,
Right,
then to make the growth after that.
okay, I can understand that. Thank you.
So we have a stretch. I'd love to hear your input. You what?
I'm in agreement with that.
With the 55? Okay, so do you guys are okay stretching more? Stretching more? 55? The superintendent?
We have wanted to push it to 60.
Right, I know you guys had. Right.
But we're good with 55.
Okay.
Because I understand now, this is
Right.
a build-up.
Absolutely.
We have to give them so much,
Got to have this conversation about it, right? This is new stuff. Okay, cool. We're there. All right, goal 3 is the CCMR. We're at 50% right now. And we have 70, 70, and 75%. Who had the 75%? You want to give us content?
I looked up Alamo Heights, they were at 74 in 2019. So, and this feels like the place where we've actually started making investments in the certificate areas and things like that. And there's a lot of different levers that we can pull. So even 75 seems a little low to me, and that we could probably get to 80. But that was the rationale behind 75.
I can't remember now, I don't have my packet, the year that we got the B, what was it, does anybody have that?
I would probably look it up, because that's where I went back to for Alamo Heights was the
Yeah.
74.
Because that's the year.
The 50 was just this past year.
Right,
Oh, okay.
so that was the year that we got the B, that's what got us actually, well, I'll say, didn't get us, but helped us get the B.
Were you a B in 2018-19 or 19-20?
It was for 1920. No, it was for 19 scores, but we got it in 21.
Yes.
So 19, 20?
Yeah, but
2018, 2019.
Right, that's when it would have to be.
Okay. And so you were at 70% then? Should be in here somewhere.
It says 50, but, oh,
No, that's most current.
this is 2021.
Yeah, I think it might be in that.
The comparison with Elmo.
I think she had a year over year for the past 20 years.
I don't remember where it was. College readiness. I thought I had a whole sheet on it somewhere.
Yeah, it was a standalone sheet.
Yeah.
But it was for the 20, The standalone sheet was for this, just this past year,
We didn't have any comparative data.
That one CCNY sheet,
Okay, so if it's not that different,
And
but
I apologize, 74 was Alamo Heights 2021.
so they're at 74
Last year when we were at 50.
when you were at 50?
Yes.
So do we feel like a 25% growth, Dr. Ball, is reasonable? You guys okay with stretching it? Stretching it? You want to stretch it more?
No, I'm saying that's not.
You can stretch it more.
2019 was 56%.
Okay, let's sit here for a minute. And we already did this. So we got 4 goals. I'm working on 7th grade math. So that'll be, we're still trying to figure out the baseline. But what do you feel is a fair spread on 7th grade math? 3 points a year, 5 points a year. 7th grade math was the one that we thought was really low, right? But we're trying to figure out if maybe it was not reported properly because it's so low.
The state average was 43.
Now, Mr. Macias brought up a good point that, this could possibly be the time when they had
With the team and the ordinance, but I don't know, it's 2 years in a row, but that did come up.
And that's what we're checking with CC about too.
Interestingly,
She put the broken down paper not out for last year's results yet.
But you guys have it, don't you?
That's what she responded.
How did she get this? But she doesn't have it broken by tests. Okay.
I'll have to ask her
Yeah.
tomorrow, but
That's fine. So what do we think if the state is at, I mean, what do we want to get back to in 7th grade math? What was, is Alamo Heights our competitor here? Is this where we're going to check? Or the state was at what, 46, did you say? You told me that. 43.
it would be at least the state average.
Okay, so 43 is 1,
This is again over 5 years.
5 years.
So that gets into the state 5 years from now, so we're 5 years behind, in my opinion, in respect.
That's a good point.
on the other ones, we landed right around 55 for grade 3 reading and math. And so if the state average is 43, we can imagine that the state average is going to go up. So maybe we say like 52.
50.
That's
We had said 50%.
50%. That's 7 points higher. Is that a stretch?
From 20, from 19,
Yeah, it's a stretch to that data. But, all right, well, let's do this. We're going to confirm that as best we can. And we're going to say, what'd you say, 55, 50?
I said 50.
50? That's 7 points higher than the state is now.
I would say 55.
it's a 30-point growth.
55, what do y'all think? What do you think?
Go from 19 to 55, that's pretty,
5 years that we're dealing with.
I understand that, but math is really hard to do.
What do you feel comfortable with?
It's only, 43%, it's a 12% increase over 5 years.
These are preliminary. We're going to confirm all the data and make sure, but you say 50? You say 52.5? You all okay with 52?
Because they don't report .2
Behind
decimals.
52.
52. He's willing to come off a half point. 50.
Negotiations over here.
That's right. 52. Are you all with 52?
I'm good with 52, that's fine.
Seems fair. You guys okay with 52? 52? 52?
I just don't want to set our superintendent up for failure, because if these are goals that we're setting, and we don't come anywhere near meeting them, then this is part of her evaluation. And
Absolutely.
even though these are all goals that we say she can touch, there's so much more to it than just what the superintendent does. It's about staff. It's about what kind of students we have. It's about, what kind of programs are we going to be allowed to put into place. I just don't want it to be unreachable. And going from 19 to 52 is a lot.
But you're okay with 50.
Hard to make a difference in.
So,
I'm just saying.
no, absolutely. So we're going to go back to the inputs and outputs. So Dr. Ball has influence over all of the inputs. You have to resource these goals, and you're right. You want to create the conditions for success. We're not trying to set unreasonable goals, right? So,
One of the things that I think I'd like to mention is that Ms. Canoyer has been an educator. And I think that she understands the pressure that this also puts on teachers. So this isn't just pressure on me. This is also pressure on teachers. So, and I think our teachers work hard. So I also want to make sure that we're sending a message that it's something that doesn't stretch our teachers to the point of breaking.
fair point. And so, these goals are about students. So this is where we are. We don't know where we are here for sure, right? I absolutely agree. If it's at 18% and that's a real number, then 50% is pretty unreasonable.
It's just, I also
But-
have in this assessment that that's an anomaly. There's something wrong with that data for its drop.
It was 16% the year before.
Yeah, no, it didn't, this is 2019. We're significantly below the state, and that's why
And
we
recent
chose
20.
this
I mean,
one.
Yeah, it's just, crazy.
There's an issue with what we're doing in the school.
Exactly, which means that needs to be we need to work on that. But teachers we have 5 years, the whole district has 5 years to get to that total. It's not a next year, we need to be at 50%. I mean, it's 5 years that we develop strategies and attribute resources to it. She's saying that we're all on one team to get there. So we're not going to run back to teachers.
But we'll measure progress every year. And there'll be targets. So let's talk about the annual targets too. When we get to those, if this one is 18, 16, maybe the annual target is only 22 next year, right? And then it goes up when we deploy a strategy that addresses this, right, to get there. I'm not recommending any end target number. I'm asking you guys to exactly what this conversation is talking about. What is a stretch? Where do we want our kids? What is a stretch? What is feasible for and attainable for the school district, given the resources that you have to deploy, right? And that's important. We're not trying to gotcha anyone, right? We're not trying to use this data in any kind of weaponizing mode. We're only trying to do is to create an end goal so Dr. Ball knows where she's trying to get to, right? So we just want to make sure that's where we are. We're not trying to gotcha to teachers or any of that. We want our district to be successful, including our teachers.
And like I've done hundreds of reviews. I evaluate employees accordingly. I never say, okay, you can make this goal out of here, especially when you look at the whole picture. And there's always a whole picture to look at. So as you said, it's not a gotcha. This is a target. This is something we need to work together for. And try to create realistic goals. I will say too, if we can identify the schools that are contributing to this lower number, we do the target there first. So there are strategies that we can work towards.
Right.
That I think would be good.
Aspirational.
You do know the schools because of the
We probably, I don't want to assume, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, when we look at our data, the other thing to look at is to follow a grade level group. So the group that scored 19% in seventh grade scored 31% the year before. So that is also information that we have to look at. So what happened between sixth grade and seventh grade? Now, I don't know for sure because I've been out of it for a while.
Yeah, you have been asking that.
It could be that the test changed. It could be,
Mhm.
and I don't remember when they brought out new math standards. But, you know, they're so good about pushing stuff down so stuff gets missed and they're tested on the seventh grade they never had.
But that would be reflected in the state and region
You
point.
would think,
highest performing middle
you would think. So they went from 41 to 39.
Where are they
Region,
scoring?
And from
Let me pull that up. You have the TA in there? Okay.
43 instead, so that changed, yes. So that says that there's something going on with our seventh grade
Look at
math.
Kevin, because Judson Middle School has J studies.
I don't think we got 5 years.
Right, we should
We got 5 years.
33%.
5 years. But I also want to say on the record, just because I think it's really, Dr. Ball, I tend to be the only superintendent I work with, the rest of my time on the board. So I'm happy you're here, I want you to continue with us, and work with you, with my colleagues, to make sure you're successful. So no, never try to set you up to fail, it's to win.
Well, if I'm the only one who feels strongly about this, I will defer to my colleagues because I can't be the one that steers the boat.
Well, I'm sorry. I can't remember which one. What was the
For me, 50 was the big stretch.
50 was a big stretch.
Because I know how hard it is.
You said
to
52,
change
right?
Math scores. I've been in the trenches trying to do this. Math is hard.
Okay. So how about we do this? We say 50% right now, and let's just make sure we got the right data. Let's just make sure we got the right data, and then we'll come back.
We'll say 52 right now, to make sure we get that.
Okay, 52. Fine. 52.
I mean, we'll make sure it's right, though.
Yeah.
We're just.
And let's look at the way the strategies, 2%, we can go back. This is where we got to have, right? We got to make sure. We're just trying to get a starting point here.
We had, in 2019, we had 27% meets grade level, and Judson Middle School had much lower. They had 18. Wow. So those are top performers. So from that to 50, is a lot.
So we're feeling like those numbers are pretty accurate.
Yeah, yeah. For 2019, yeah. I don't know what they were for 2020 or 2021.
And Kirby's are.
So that's over a 30%. That's too big. That's probably way too stretchy. If the numbers are right, 30 points, unless you are willing to deploy something magical, which we may, I don't know. But
Question, right? In your experience, right? Magic wand. Is there anything to get that jump?
Being realistic, and it's not that we don't have good resources, not that pouring money into it, it just takes time. It just takes time.
Because it doesn't happen just at seventh grade. The thing is, when you look at the STAR test and you look at, it builds on
This is
what
gonna
happens
jump.
in every grade level up. To go from hands-on to more abstract, and I will preach it all day long, the STAR test is developmentally inappropriate because it asks our students to do things that their brains aren't ready to do. So it doesn't matter how much you throw at it, you're only going to get the kids who grade. It's an 11th grade level skill when you break it down into all the steps and processes that they have to go through to do that. Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. And not just that, but then it's not just do this problem. It's in a word problem. So then they have to read something, and there have been studies done on the actual word problem to analyze the sentence complexity of it, and those are at least 2 grade levels higher than the target grade level.
And that's for third graders.
That's for all grade levels.
But they're multi-step,
So
even in third grade.
we have the assessment that we have right now, could change. But we're also going to see progress measures that are different, right? Interim progress measures that are not STAR, but are predictive of the STAR, and then we will know.
Like we're basing our goals.
We're looking at the progress and saying, oh, maybe we're not getting there, or look, we're way ahead, we're doing really great. So that's why we have progress measures that will tie to these that are not STAR-based summative progress measures. So, this is also going to affect that 7th grade number for, if we can, as we move towards this goal, we'll assume that we'll move in 2 years, 3 years out towards the later numbers. But I'm not saying 52% either. I think if you have to really look at it. If the number is really 18%, is that what we said it was?
19.
What?
Yeah, it was 19 in 2019.
Okay, so we got to assume if it was 19,
I looked up individual campus results, and the only one that was a standout was Kitty Hawk, and they were at 27. Everybody else was 19, ranged between 13 and 19% on these. So it was not a lot of variation.
so is it feasible to grow 3% a year in this? Is it feasible? Math is harder, I understand. We want to stretch, but we don't want to be unreasonable.
I just think if it's already occurring at the state and at the region, there's no reason why it shouldn't be happening here.
It's not occurring at the state or region.
What's the state average is a region 20
The
is?
state was at 43, region 20 was at 39.
Which means it's already hitting, so let's go hire their personnel and bring them over. But bottom line, if it's already happening, it can happen. It's not so unrealistic to have a benchmark that's higher. In fact, the first place we need to start is believing here that we can do it. It's all about belief. I think if we put our heads together and our hearts, we can make this happen. So, if you're already going to be defeated, it's not possible, then
I'm not defeated, I'm being realistic, because I have been there and done it, and you have not.
And that's the other part. When you're in the system for so long, you can't see a bigger picture.
No, sir,
You
that's
see
not.
the same process. So it's a good and a bad thing.
So let's take a breath. Let's just table this a little bit, okay? Because I can see it
Frustrating.
is, and it's hard.
Percentage points from where we agreed, 52 to 50%.
Well,
I mean,
I think we also, 50 might be a little too high, if it's a 20. We wanted to double check those numbers. That's 30 points.
20 shows it's possible.
Well, they're not at
We're not the state, and
I
we're
know,
not
but
all
the
regions.
growth, you're talking about 7%, I think
Right.
9%.
Tell me what you're looking at, Mr. Macias.
I'm looking at the meat grade level, 7th grade, region 20, and, yeah, the same thing.
Yeah. Yes, I know, but I'm seeing 39 was region 20 and state is 43.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at, 43% for the state.
So what if we say 43?
You're making them
The point is that if we were to adopt the state 43, we're looking really at a 7-point difference. In 5 years, mind you, the 50% are a 9% difference from the state in 5 years. That's not, that should be realistic. Because those numbers are just too low.
Yeah, I think we all agree that the numbers are low, but I don't think that I don't understand. Our starting point is 19, not 43.
So those best practices, if we're investigating best practices, let's find out what they're doing. We have a ground with
Okay, so Dr. Ball, yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, when you started this process, what made you focus on meets instead of approaches? And if we were talking about approaches, then my numbers would certainly be different.
Well, I will tell you that meets is aspirational, approaches is kind of the floor. And so we traditionally, when we talk about it, you can have it be at any level you want, but what we want is our kids at grade level, which is meets. And so if we want to set goals having them be below grade level, then it's approaches. So that's where it was, but you can set your goals at any.
Is approaches not at grade level?
No.
Approaches is considered passing. My understanding is that the approaches scale score varies much more year to year than the meets does. I think the meets is pretty steady. And the scale score for approaches is based on like where does the like bell curve of the
Right.
state hit, and so we're gonna like
So
put
it's
it there. So the
lower.
majority of kids pass, but I don't know, that, I'm not like an expert.
But is it approach, doesn't, help me understand. Approaches is saying that they're not at their grade level, they're just getting there, right? So why would we celebrate that? I mean,
So the state, I don't know why the state chose these words. But the, like, approaches is what is considered passing.
Yes.
Like, if you get this, if you
The
get
minimum.
approaches on it, then you, like, come past the star.
so you made a 69,
Or,
Here's some.
no, it isn't, don't even start, like. it's
You can
sometimes
have these guys had ISO training?
25%.
ISO?
Like,
They
that
need to.
changes every year, the scale.
Would help you.
Especially in election year.
It's required.
So,
Are you talking about like presidential elections?
no, gubernatorial.
The governor? It all has something to do with.
Let me see.
First point was the TEA
There's a
commission.
college readiness standard that is tied to approaches and meets, and it's a much lower standard for approaches than it is for meets. But if you have an approaches goal, the assumption is, I mean, if you have a meets goal, everything's going to move, right? If you have an approaches goal, does your approaches goal and your meets goal move? Right. So to me, I would rather see, and this is your prerogative, right? This is you guys. I would rather see a lower meets goal than a higher approaches that then doesn't move our kids up and meets into the meets.
I believe that the floor for
Into the meets.
is 70% of the test, and approaches is less than 50%, correct?
Right.
So one of the things that I'm getting back to, approaches is past, and meets is like past, and will need limited support for future success.
Nothing to say you can't have meets up here and approaches here. You know, if we're really struggling in 7th grade math, then maybe we have an approaches goal. What's the approaches number for 7th
Say
grade?
again?
55.
Okay, so if that's where do you want to be on approaches if we start at 55? What do we feel comfortable getting to? Approaches at 7th grade math is 55% of our kids. At meets, we're at 19%, so we're having a little trouble getting from here to here.
So my suggestion would be 70 at approaches.
How do y'all feel about that? And I can do some calculation to see what 70 at approaches might do to your meets and give you that number.
So I personally prefer to go with meets because we're virtue signaling that that is the expectation. However, that has to be coupled with a realistic number with meets. I think if we go with approaches on that particular subject, then it feels like a concession. And I, as a parent, who would read that as a goal, that would give me some pause.
Mhm.
So I prefer meets consistently. However, we need to level set real expectations for the next.
So would you say meets to 39%?
So I wrote down 36%.
36?
So interestingly, now I'm getting really nerdy, and I looked up the scale.
You looked up the what?
The scale scores for the 7th grade math test.
Okay.
And so the bar for me is to get 25 questions correct, but interestingly, that's the 65th percentile. So that means that that kid who gets meets has scored better than 65% of every other kid who has taken that test. So then it's basically saying that there's only 35% left. Like only 35% of kids are gonna get meets. But I don't know if they set it based on the percentiles or if they set it based on if these are the thresholds. I just thought that was.
That's even too wonky for me.
Okay.
Okay, so if we went from 19 to 36, how do you feel about that, Dr. Ball? You guys feel okay with that? Your group? How do you guys feel?
And again, right, can't we,
Over 5 years, yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
and we can always, if we meet that already,
Yes.
then
We-
we can evaluate.
Put that icing on the cake.
We dance?
It's still lower than where we are now, though, state and region wise. So 36%, and we're still below state average and region 20 average.
Well, we're way below state average, so we have to accept that.
There's just sometimes
But-
you gotta see something as an emergency. I see this as an emergency. I
Mhm.
see this as a big issue. And so as a result, we need to put some water and burn the fire out, which means our goal needs to be aggressive to
Mhm.
address that. If we can't even meet state average or region 25 years from now, we're accepting, we're accepting it. It's not right.
Well, we can still throw some water on this fire, so even at this. So, okay, so you're still holding on 52?
Just out of curiosity,
To develop something that's gonna be higher than the state.
Okay.
out of curiosity, because that number didn't appear just this year, right? It's been,
Say it one more time.
so that number's been consistently low for a number of years,
Right.
right? So,
So we need to change a tactic, probably, right?
I'm curious for the veterans on the board, how did y'all address that before? Or was it not a huge focal point, specifically a focal point?
We didn't look at data.
Okay.
It would have been addressed at the curriculum level, with the specialists and at the campuses, with the teachers.
So we need to
The
start
board
somewhere to
is-
build the pipeline and the infrastructure to get
Well,
to the
we would
number.
look at it and say, yeah, well, okay,
Right.
but nothing happened.
It sounds like what all of you are saying, and this is why we're having this conversation, is, look, this is not an acceptable number. We want it to go up. We're below other standards, other states. Even at the approaches, we still want it to go up. So let's start the work, right? Let's start the work. Let's make sure Dr. Ball has what she needs to get there. And so maybe because this is a hot number, we look at it and we'd say we're going for a more reasonable 5-year goal with adjustments if we can make it. And I think you have to decide, like, to me, what would happen with this goal is you would get progress measures and a strategy about how to move this number up. And that's, going to take time. She can't do it overnight. She's going to have to, work with her team and make sure that she's addressing the needs. And so, how about you guys? Where are you on this number? 36, 19 to 36. You're,
I think, yeah, I'm fine with that, I'm fine, I think 50 is good.
you think, all right, you're okay?
Anything above the state average. Yeah, it can't be no more than, yeah.
Okay, all right. I know we didn't get to probably a unanimous number there, but we did on the rest, so that was pretty good. So we got one that is a little bit shaky, but I think it is a stretch, and I think if you feel good with that number, Dr. Ball, it is not unreasonable.
Well, don't get me wrong, I mean, feel good, no, like, proud that our kids are at.
No, I don't mean that. I mean the stretch goal. I don't want you to feel like it's not attainable. That's what I meant. I'm sorry, I used the wrong words. Hey, that's why we're doing this work, so we can set these goals and we can start to address them. But if we don't know them, what you don't know, you can't fix. So we gotta know them, and we gotta name them, and we gotta be responsible. All right, good. So we've got some good numbers here. I feel good that we've gotten to that. You've looked at data. We'll double check all of this, right? We're going to double check all of this. Now I want to just move this over here and take, because this is the work that's going to move forward with Dr. Ball's team, is the goal progress measures. But I want you guys to understand what it feels like to make those goal progress measures, because these are harder. Like, these are hard enough. The goal progress measures are really for the experts. They're really hard. And Dr. Ball and her team own those progress measures. But for you, they have to speak to you in a way that they are predictable of these goals, so you guys know what's happening. So I want you to understand them. So the goal progress measures, I've talked about them. They have a baseline, a target, a population, a deadline, just like goals do. They're predictive of the goal, and they're influenceable by the superintendent, meaning she can make them happen, or she at least has them within their power. Many of those, and why we gave you guys this, okay, how did I get extras? Are in here, there's tactics that are being tied to academic goals. And so we want to create mission alignment, right? We don't want to have to go, okay, well, we're going to start over, right? We already want to tie them. So when Dr. Ball looks at this and comes back with her team and says, okay, here are the things we're measuring now, and comes back to you guys with those, you'll get to say, yes, this works for me, or, we'd really like to see this as well. Does that make sense? So what I'd like you guys to do, you don't have to have numbers, but just what would be 3 things, and each of these goals will have 3 to 5 goal progress measures. Kind of look at this handout that you were given too. Take 10 minutes and think about maybe 3 predictors that you would like to see on each of these goals. Don't have to name a baseline, a target, or any of that. Just broad swipes, like what do you think are important to you for those 3 goals? Or for those 5 goals, sorry. Does that make sense? You want me to re-explain it? Okay.
She already knew.
I wrote all over mine, so mine's the one that has writing all over it. No, this one has writing. Yeah, okay. So I want you to think, and you can use this if you need to look at the strategy. See, she's listed all her strategies. What I would like you to do is say, okay, for this goal, what are 3 progress measures that you think are important to predicting this outcome? Just take a shot, work together. And for every goal.
3 progress measures.
3 progress measures that would predict this goal, or each goal, that are important to you. So like, for instance, you guys said graduation rates were important. That might be a CCMR. You said,
Is that an example of it?
I think we're going to have to, I think that's an additional, the persistency. Right, yeah. The AP credit, SATs, Trustee Macia said was important.
When you finish, I was gonna ask you, I know yourself, but can you tell me, you said take each of these?
Each of the goals,
Okay.
right? And then I want you to think of 3 things that would be important measurements of progress that you think that would be predictive of these goals. So for instance, in CCMR, you said SATs is important. That would be a predictor of college readiness to me, right? High SAT scores. 3rd grade literacy, maybe success in 1st grade on reading might be one, right? So you don't have to put any numbers, just 3 kind of broader things. And those are, just want you to work on that. You guys got it? Okay. that, those are kind of examples, and I think I might have showed you those before, but.
I'll be right back, Patricia.
Okay. Let me see, where was it? Yes, sir. Sir? Okay. We're not done after that. We've got it. Thank you. I'm gonna give you guys just a couple more minutes. No, you're right, actually, okay, that's a good point, that's a great point. Well, let me ask you all this, because we've got 15 minutes left. Where are you, do you feel like it would be best, this is your choice, your board training, best for us to come back and talk about like what you came up with tomorrow at the beginning, and then we're going to move to guardrails, so you kind of have a little chance to think and not be rushing this final thing. And because I want to be able to give the superintendent a list, so this is what's going to happen next. Superintendent and her team are going to go back. They'll take your thoughts on goal progress. They'll take these, and they'll come up with what's really aligned with theirs. Come back, present it to you. We'll talk about it. We'll make sure it's what you want. And then eventually, we'll vote on it. And we'll do that exact same process that we've done with goals, we're going to do with guardrails. So that's what our next steps. Then we're going to take all of that and put it together. It's going to be a part of your operating procedures. It's a part of your goals, and we'll build a monitoring calendar on how that's going to be monitored. So everybody, superintendent and her team, all of you guys, everybody, the community, they all know. What I would urge you to is before we vote on these, once we get the numbers pretty good, is to talk to your community. Do these represent their values? Are these the goals that they have vision for? As your parents, the people that are your constituents, your stakeholders, what do they think? So it's a good conversation to have, because now when you're talking to your community, you're saying, look, this is what we're striving for. This is what we're striving for, and here are the amazing strategies that Justin ISD is putting together to get our kids there. I mean, that's a fun, I think that's a fun conversation to have as a trustee with your community, because now you've got tangibility, now you've got anything. So why don't we do that? We'll come back tomorrow, we'll talk about your progress measures that you came up with, and we'll have a little bit of time with that. I'll let you out a little early today, since I just made you just dive in data again, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll tackle it all. Fair enough?
Just to clarify,
And it's all her fault. No. No.
Or is it, this is more like,
That's an example of what a goal progress measures could look like. But what I'm asking you is to think about, from your own perspective, what would you like to see to know we're making progress in 7th grade math, to know we're making progress in kindergarten readiness, to know we're making progress in 3rd grade? What would you like to see? I don't need numbers, I don't need baselines, I don't need targets, just broad swaths, okay? Everybody got that? All right, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging in there tonight and being persistent. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well then, are there any announcements? Do we have anything else we need to say? Pardon me? Item 3A, we have no action on. We did not do that one. We also did not go into closed session. All right, this meeting is adjourned at 8:50. Everybody have a good, safe night.